Hey fam, how's everybody doing today? We're H&D Abroad. This is Herman.
I'm Dee, and welcome to our last broadcast live of 2023. We are getting ready for 2024, like so many of our friends in this community. We want to encourage you, if you have been joining us and we look at our analytics, we want you to go ahead and join the community, join in, share this video, but like it first, subscribe, and
hit the
notification bell
and
because
share.
yes,
and share.
So our channel is all about seeing the move abroad process as a plan A for building generational wealth and embracing a healthy or healthier lifestyle. And so we have a community of folk that are considering what could travel or moving abroad do to enhance the life that they want to have. And we're having real, transparent conversations. We are sharing our journey in real time as people who we don't have residual income from properties, and we don't qualify for a pension. We're not eligible for Social Security. What are we going to do if we're going to leave the life that we know here in the US behind for living a life abroad? So we're talking today about, will unpaid debt follow you? So as a part of our 2024 Move Abroad Money Goals conversation series, last week was about savings and income. We encourage you to have a savings, but living abroad on savings alone is a one-dimensional strategy. Having some income, we've talked about streams of income, rivers of income, and Steve put on there last week. He's putting lakes of income in effect.
Hey,
so I'm telling you,
we're trying to wash out the whole land. Listen, we are really glad you are here today. I'm going to do a couple of quick shout outs. I'm going to start off with a shout out to Midlife Money Moves Greta King. We were hoping to have Greta on today, but she's feeling under the weather. We want to give her our support and tell you that we hope that you feel better, and we look forward to having you on with us soon.
She is in the chat, so y'all give her some encouragement and some love.
Absolutely, absolutely. As always, Tanya is here. First and foremost, Tanya, good to see you. Intentional Metamorphosis. Hey, fam, good to see you. Kathy Hampton.
Hey, Kathy.
Hey, that's listen. She watches you. You make it hard for me to get up in the morning because I got to go to work. Listen. We appreciate the work you do. Happy New Year, Lori. Hey, Diane Heidelberg, we love you too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Dave and Nikki, what's going on?
They are sacrificing their last few days here in the U.S. by watching us. So thank you, David and Nikki.
Hey,
Steve.
Hey, Steve. Hey, Sean. Good to see you guys from Living, Loving Abroad. They were on last night doing their time. Y'all reach out to them and subscribe to their page if you haven't already. And of course, our family here visiting with us today, Aging Grateful. Hey, Word Up Psychotherapy. Good to see you.
Absolutely. I want to say before we begin, this is a difficult conversation because everybody wants to talk about, I've got a strong savings, I've got all these ways that I'm making money. It's hard to talk about debt. I have felt like debt is the secret you don't want to share. Whether that is in a relationship, when you're getting ready to get married, you should be asking what kind of responsibilities or debt are you bringing into the marriage?
Sometimes in the marriage, you're creating debt secretly. Debt is a heavy word. Debt is one of those words that you don't just see, you feel it. Yeah. It comes with its own weight. It's a 4-letter word that supersedes all the curse words. I mean, it is a heavy word because it suggests sometimes failure, feelings of inadequacy, lack of self-control. It can suggest so many things. And sometimes it's just a matter of life pulls the rug out from underneath you and you're trying to recover. You're trying to put things in order. And debt can be something as simple as, you know, you owe your cousin $50 to you got that IRS debt, or that student loan, or you're underwater in a home purchase, and there may or may not be a plan to recover from it. We come into
a mountain.
It's a mountain. We come into this conversation hot today. You can hear the energy we're bringing in today because we already been in conversation with our surprise guest today who have jumped in with us. Because this last night we were sitting here talking over the project for the day, and we were thumbing through YouTube, and there on the page was a recent post by Aging Grateful. Here they are today.
Yeah.
And they were talking about working through some real life debt and saying that they saw our topic for the day. So we dropped them into the conversation today.
Not just because they're good friends. Y'all have seen Aging Grateful on our channel. Hopefully you have subscribed and are watching their real-time journey in the first year of moving abroad. And we thought it might be helpful for you all to have the planners and the people who are in the midst of it to get those perspectives, to be able to ask questions from people who are you know, in the what could I do to put the right things together, and then people who are able to look back and look at their current budget and see the impact of what we're talking about today, income, responsibilities, but also managing the debt or the responsibilities that they have here in the US while they're trying to live their best quality life. So go ahead, Aging Grateful, if you want to start by introducing yourself and your channel.
Absolutely. I'm Bobby.
I'm Cedric.
And we are Aging Grateful. We live in Mexico and made the choice to live here. We've been here over a year now. And listen, we are living this thing called expat life, but also understanding that the move is not an easy move. It's not an easy process. It is enjoyable and it is worth it. But looking back, being able to share some things that we have learned and are still learning on this journey, one of which is this debt. Absolutely, this debt. And so we relish the opportunity, just seeing and knowing that you guys were on the same page. Oh my gosh, it brought tears to our eyes.
Because it feels like sometimes it feels like you're out here all alone when it comes to this stuff, you know, like no, ain't nobody going through this. But we've gotten some pretty good feedback, so we appreciate that.
Yes,
absolutely. I want to say hello to Dr. Linda and to Kimberly, Annabelle. Thanks for joining us today. To T and Nicole, thanks you all for joining. For those of you who are new, and for those of you who are returning subscribers, you know I say every week, this is a conversation. This is not Cedric and Bobby and Dee and I over here talking and everybody listening. This is a conversation. Jump in this, share with us your experiences, your concerns, your fears. We're going to push at it today because it's hot today, because debt affects us all. Hey, Poetry, good to see you.
Absolutely. So, you know, the path that we were thinking about when it was just going to be Herman and I talking today was to kind of lay out some common areas that people either are thinking about or should consider. Debt should not be the only reason you either choose to stay or should not be the solution for you to leave, you know, in the decision to leave. Because when I started going down the rabbit hole, and we put several people, so Adelia Abor-Shade, Pika Girl Travel the World, has at least 3 videos. She is talking about, things that you should be doing before you leave the US. But also looking at the impact of yes, your debt, to answer the question, will your unpaid debt follow you? Yes, it will follow you. If you think either not having a US address, when I found out that what happens is they can either file an injunction. So now you've got a legal element that once you have a legal proceeding, they can block your passport renewal. They can, if you make an entry in the US, you can get arrested at the airport. I mean, there are those kinds of consequences, but the one that was surprising is they can sell your debt to somewhere. They have international affiliates, and they can use the local affiliate in the country that you're going to collect on that debt. Y'all, this is if the internet is connecting us and we now have a global business community, trust me, it is big debt, and debt collection is big business.
It is getting harder and harder to hide. It used to be, hey, you go on cash system, you disappear. It is getting harder and harder to hide. And investment, and this country is a master detective. They are the Batman. They are coming for you, and they're going to show. Yes, the CIA of debt. Yes,
Uncle Sam is a CIA agent. Do you understand me?
Look, yes. And I'm going to testify as someone who has worked for the Department of the Treasury. I worked in the offset call center where you would call and say, what happened to my federal funds? If you work for the government and you get a payout to go on a trip, we took that money because you owed a debt. When I say they are efficient and effective, I want to create the sense that doing nothing should not be an option. But there are buckets of priority. You prioritize what those buckets are. So, Seth and Bobby, why don't you set us up with maybe the what started, where did the emotions run high for you all to post the rant yesterday?
And if you didn't see it, please go back and watch it.
Funny enough, it started, we were watching one of Adelia's videos, and she was talking about not buying a property in Mexico because her kids, they're not going to want to take care of it. And I was like, wait a minute. So, that's a good point. What am I going to do with this property after we leave?
We're gone.
Yeah. So we started just kind of looking at that.
And we were doing our budget.
And we were doing our budget.
Time.
Yeah, we were doing our budget for the new year. So when you start doing that budget for the new year, and you really started looking at things, I'm like, okay, we still have some debt in the U.S. and like I'm glad you mentioned, debt is not a reason for you to stay. It's not a reason for you to leave, but you have to have a plan to be able to manage that debt.
Yes.
And that's what we did when we moved abroad. We said, okay, we got rid of pretty much all of our debt except for three things
attached to the house.
The things attached to the house. We got the solar, the pool, and the HELOC. So we say, okay, we can manage these, and with our rental, we can make this amount of money, and basically out of our pocket, we pay basically $600 a month. So now we got a $600 a month out of our pocket, which will manage these debts. And then we built our emergency fund and everything around that to say, okay, if this happens, how long can we sustain this before, we got to pull the trigger? Maybe how long can we go before we have to sell the house? Because if we sell the house, we could probably clear it all. Right. So do we sell the house? And this is what we were talking about yesterday when we were doing our budget. Should we sell the house and clear it all and then use our income to kind of, snowball, some cash back up? I see why people sell everything now and walk away.
But we really was trying to look at different options.
Right.
And then while we were doing the different options, we stumbled on your thumbnail about today's. And then we were like, holy smokes, we are sitting here like almost in tears going through this, and like, we are not alone. We see that other people are having this conversation, this thought process, and there is no running from it. Let's say that there is no running from any of this. This is the reality that we face. We made the debts.
Yeah.
We are responsible for, and it's hard for us to say it, but we made the debts, no matter good, bad, indifferent, and we are going to pay these debts. The
Come
thing
get
is,
your whooping.
absolutely, come get your whooping. However, it's gonna come in love. We gonna pull the Band-Aid off. It's gonna hurt for a minute,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we tend to hide that from other people, that we are dealing with these issues and these struggles. And I think that is our problem. We don't want to reach out and seek the help that may be there or needed in order for us to move forward. Yesterday, we were frustrated. We were hurt. We were hurt by the things that we did to ourselves, self-inflicted hurt.
Mhm. Mhm.
But trying to figure out a way to climb out of that, but not go back to the United States to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this experience, this experiment that we have embarked on as YouTube content creators has opened up a community engagement that we could never have perceived would be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our personalities, we have similarities and differences, as should be. Dee is very protective and cautious of her space, her time, her personal, her person. I am, but in a different way. I find circles of things to share and help move. It's the opposite. My defense mechanism is out loud. And so in this experiment of sharing our journey, having to pour in that sometimes it blows up in our face, you know, and we have the bad habit, especially as firstborns, both of us as firstborns, we have the habit of the whipping ourselves over the shoulder, the old, you know, self-incrimination, beating ourselves over the shoulder, and gaining these friendships and hearing this experience about, hey, we all done effed it up. And it's time to pay attention. How do we dig at it instead of how do we crab in the barrel ourselves down? How do we help each other climb out of this barrel together? Has made an experience. You all, man, that hit me like a ton of bricks last night. Not because I didn't know. I mean, you and I, you know, we've all talked, we've shared, we kind of know, you know. But I mean, to open up to the world and say, hey, y'all, I'm afraid. And my choices are coming to get me. You know,
Yes,
and our choices may impact our timeline, and we have to be. There's a fine line that I want to make sure that as we are talking about the emotional impact, the if you haven't gone and opened your credit report and looked at all the things, if you haven't pulled the bills as they come in the mail and sat them out and listed them from smallest to greatest, if you haven't done that, maybe the full impact of your debt hasn't really hit you yet. Mm-hmm. But before you leave the US, that is definitely something you should do so that you are fully aware of what potentially could tip over into your life.
Debt reduction is a lesson. A true debt reduction is a lesson in research and self-honesty. What do I really have? Yeah, we have on the wall a list of all the bills we pay every month, and then all the things we owe outside of those things. So every time one of us has a health issue that is outside of our control, and they charge us for that, it's up here on this wall so we can see. And it's eye-opening because it helps us keep it in perspective, but it also can be overwhelming because it's just numbers for days sometimes. It just, you know, it's just like, okay, my bank account doesn't look like that. It's just, the numbers are backwards.
So, I mean, I think part of this is organizing. And I think it is a skill that I have seen Cedric excel at. I think Excel and spreadsheets is his happy place.
Yeah. Yes.
That is his happy place. Being
Absolutely.
able to say, this is what's going in. You know, I anticipated this. This is our surplus. Where are the surpluses? Where, if we needed to put the brakes on or be able to put the gas on, these are the areas in what we are bringing in where we can do that. And then how do we hedge up some areas? So tell me how you all, because people are already asking, do we offer consulting? So I'm pretty sure there's something that's going to grow out of this, but how, because that is, as Herman has talked about, we have several strategies. We both use every dollar, which is for our monthly expenses. Then we've got to look at, you know, as we're listing things, you know, if it's physically on the wall in a spreadsheet, how is that? Because you all have given several examples of just how costs have run up. And I'm going to just use one example. Uber. You didn't bring a car. And you all were able to be detectives about your own budget from being able to take into consideration and then make some different choices. So how is spreadsheeting and coming up with your own accounting system been helpful for you all?
I think, you know, we use every dollar to kind of get the overall view. And then we break it down into categories from, because I get paid twice a month. So we break it down into two categories. Okay, this half and this half, this is what's coming out. This is what's in the bank. This is what we need to move. And we started moving different things into different categories, into different bank accounts, like our food goes into.
It is only in one account. There should be nothing else intermingling with the things that we have separate accounts for.
Right.
We have also, with the spreadsheet, we break down the monthly and the yearly. So whatever is something's consistent for the month, we know to the penny now how much those things are yearly out of our budget. So we keep seeing every month a running tally of what our expenses are, how much it is per year, and then we base it upon the paychecks that we're getting, and we break out what is coming from which paychecks is basically what we're saying.
Right, and then we just debt snowball, just like, I mean, we debt snowball. We've been doing that, and we did the same thing. So before we left the States, we paid off all of our debt except for the ones that we have left, and we said, okay, this is how we're going to manage that. The first year we're here, we're just going to pay the minimum payments like we normally do. We're going to take our extra savings, invest, build up our emergency fund. And then in 2024, we're going to divide it, right? So now we're going to, basically break it in threes, and we're going to, start snowballing that debt with the more money. So, I mean, we're still doing the same concepts that we were doing before, but we just built in a plan to manage that so we could move our timeline up of moving abroad. Because if we waited till we snowball that all in the States, I mean, we would be,
Also, one other thing I do want to say this, and it's something that I think it was beneficial for us. So hopefully, prayerfully, it will be beneficial to someone. But one of the things we did before we left is, yes, we started our emergency fund, but we actually started a separate fund that was for rent, only rent. And what we did was we saved up enough money for the next year. So like our 2024 rent budget was already replenished in 2023. It was already funded fully. And so we don't include that in our budgeting now because of the fact that that's already been set aside for the year. Right now, what we are doing beginning January 1 is we are funding for 2025. And that is what we're trying to always, at least for a roof over our head, to stay a year ahead. And we saved doing that.
Yeah, because if you're putting that in a high interest, I mean, so you're able to gain, and it gives you, because when you're looking at the fluctuations in the exchange rate, you're building in that buffer with the savings. But I won't say his name, but the person that put the plan together that we use, securing your four walls, that is a concept that I definitely bring forward as well, is secure your four walls. So I don't want to get too much into our moving abroad budget. I want to make sure that we're taking back where are the opportunities. And I think that could snatch into your move abroad budget is consumer debt.
Yes.
That credit card debt will come in and snatch your, whatever you're making and trying to live on in your life. And I think, Adelia, a lot of people that I follow, Black Women Build Wealth, everybody's talking about if you don't have a handle on it, get a handle on it, get it paid down, get it paid off. Have a plan for using your own money before you're using credit card debt. But consumer debt, because I heard that the interest rates,
oh my God,
are so high now, even with really good credit. So I mean,
I also think, and I always go back to this, and I said it a minute ago, I think there's a measure of self-honesty you have to have. If you don't have credit card control, my father has a card, and he uses that card, and by the time he gets back to where he's going, he's already paid that off before they even send him the bill for that card, because the focus is to use the card for the immediate use as if it's cash. So when he gets back to where the cash is, he pays it off. If you know it's I got this available kind of personality, then you ought to be one of the people who cuts up your credit card.
Yes.
We had in the midst of some of our hardest financial times, we had one card, and we paid off that one card, and we cut that card up because we didn't want it to be a safety net because things were so hard. We have a card now, and we use that card sparingly, and we are going to put it back on the shelf like a memento. Because
but we leaned into it a lot more this year than we ever had.
Right.
There, as I'm watching you all, when you all were talking in the rant, I was just like, everything you all have experienced this year, the medical, like there's a time and purpose for things, but I mean, there are things you can't control that come up. So, I mean, when you consumer debt, definitely, I think is for us, we're not leaving until that is at zero. That is, having a credit card, I also hear can be beneficial.
Correct.
But when I heard that some hospitals won't allow you to charge, that blew me away, because I was just like, we'll just get a card that covers, and that way we can use that savings for something else. No, you need to have cash and a card, because if they don't take your credit card to cover your medical expenses, you need to have cash, or you're going to be kept in that hospital till you can pay your debt.
And I say this, as in the US, we've been brainwashed to think that credit cards are the end all be all. This is the way in which we are supposed to do life. Oh my God, you're carrying cash. What is wrong with you? Kind of a scenario. Mm-hmm. However, we bought into that because it is so easy to just pull it out and swipe, sign, and go about your business. But we really do, and we had to take a step back as well and say, why are we using these credit cards? What is its purpose for us? Do we have the funds to cover X, Y, Z? And I know people are going to say, hey, it's for the points and the travel and the rewards and all these things like that. But realistically, you have paid for every last reward, travel point. Believe me, you have, with the interest rates and all of these things. listen to me, blackout dates, none of that matters. Realistically, it's about living a better quality of life, and consumer debt is not the way to go.
And what's I
Yes.
think what's interesting, bringing abroad is, I don't know if it's because we're not watching TV, because TV's in Spanish and all that, but we're not getting bombarded with all of the commercials and I don't know what phone is out right now. I don't know. Right.
Wow.
So I'm not seeing, all this thrown at me in the state. Every time a new phone comes, I have my mom comes like, hey, the new phone, should I get the new phone? I'm like, what number are they on? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing how I haven't even thought about buying anything. But then we take a trip back to the States, and the first thing we do is get on Amazon. Like, oh man, I need to load up on Amazon. I need to load up. So I think a lot of that is the marketing and stuff that the United States has done a good job doing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I do some part-time Amazon delivery, and
Oh, yeah.
and come Prime Day,
Oh yeah.
the dumbest stuff. I have delivered everything from a pack of crackers to a plunger. And I'm just like, by the time you write your name on the deliver to my house, you could have drove around the Dollar General and got that.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely. Now, a credit abroad, a credit card, having one as a portion of your emergency plan, not your whole entire emergency plan, an option in your an arsenal, a tool, a resource in your emergency plan. That's fine, because like you were saying, Dee, yep, some hospitals may not or take or accept your credit cards. But if you had to be evac out or something like that, the credit card would be useful. And those are really the reasons why you should be using a credit card.
Right, because most of especially if you go the doctor's visits, you shouldn't really need a credit card at all, right? We're talking about emergencies. Emergencies, yes. And you may be able to, wherever you are, you may be able to call around in advance and see which hospitals take credit cards, just so you kind of know. But if you're in an emergency situation, you don't know where you may end up. One nice thing about getting rid of the consumer debt and having, the credit card, a credit card for emergencies is the longer you're abroad, what I realized, the more your credit score keeps going up. And the more your credit score keeps going up, you can just call and say, hey, I want to up my limit on this card. So you may be able to, you may not need a huge, like you may, your credit may not be good enough to you to get a, $50,000 credit card balance. But over time, once you clear this debt and you're abroad, you may be able to increase that incrementally to help offset that, that emergency fund as well. So that's one of the things
I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. And I don't know a lot about prepaid credit cards, but I mean, if you need to stash some cash somewhere and you're trying to hedge yourself from it being a debt, definitely, I'm open to using my money, but when I park my money somewhere, I need it to be earning something personally, and so whether if it's in a true what do you call that, a natural disaster emergency, having physical cash is important, but maybe having a credit card, a prepaid credit card, could be another intermediary, like you all were talking about.
Diane said something that's important. If a lot of times, because of what credit cards mean here, because credit cards, how they affect us here, we don't use the credit card that we've used has very little purpose in the States.
Shouldn't.
Okay, it just because we have to put restraints on ourselves somewhere. Okay, now there's been some emergencies, and and that's the fear right there, is how long do you have to go into there's been some emergencies, and then there's been some emergencies, and there's been some emergencies. And are you planning? And what I'm hearing in this conversation is planning or lacking thereof for a lot of people. What's the plan? A budget is a plan. And not only is a plan, it has to be an enforceable plan. This is what it looks like, whether you like it or not, whether it gets better or not, until it is even across the board and you make some adjustments up or down. This is the plan. working hourly can be challenging because you might make, $1,000 this paycheck and you might make 1,500 next paycheck. So you're thinking, I got 500 more to play with. No, you have $1,000.
Yes, you do.
That's all you have. That extra 500 ought to disappear into your bank in the background, because if you plan for the adjustments instead of for what the budget is, you find yourself overspending and it is where marketing wants you to be. And it is where fear drives you to. I have to buy some more. We talked about moving abroad and having to downsize how much you all were buying, because your mindset says, I might not be able to get there again. I might not. And so, you got stuff in the pantry that's older than the stuff in the store, and it was old when you got it. And it's in the store rotting. The nigga put some beans on to put in the crock pot. Them beans cooked like 90 days because they were so old, but they were old before we bought them. And in knowing how to balance what that is, again, there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of sacrifice you have to put in. So then what do you say are good things to take care of when you're on the ground in the States? Because then the question still becomes, how much of it does it follow me because of my habits? How much of it do I say, I stay here and pay it off? Or how much do you say, I leave with a plan and I pay it off as I go? How do you make that decision?
Well, definitely consumer debt is definitely something you do not want to have to deal with over here. Another reason why that is because mail system. I know everything says electronic now, they'll electronically send your bills, but sometimes things happen, you miss things. Next thing you know, you're paying out the wazoo because a payment was missed, and now your interest rate is in the high heavens. And so credit card debt, you shouldn't have to deal with that at all. Let that be a factor. So get rid of that first. That's the first thing if you're going to be planning to move abroad. Second thing, I would say anything that is related to, well, for us, we thought anything related to our housing needs, like any type of debt. Not disrespecting anybody, but if you have something like a judgment on your credit or something like that, you may want to take care of those things before you leave. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if you were having difficulty because of that in the States, you may be surprised that you may have that same issue trying to find a place abroad. So those are things you definitely do not want to bring with you to the States or leave untouched.
Yeah, and I'll take it from this approach. So definitely the credit cards. That's number one. So there's two scenarios, right? One scenario is you have a full-time job and you're going to work remote. You know what your paychecks, what your salaries are going to be, right? So your monthly recurring debts that you have, how can you manage that? So you need to take those payments, put it into your budget, your abroad budget, because you still got to pay those, right? And then you have to base that budget off of that. What does that budget look like? Is it, can I manage that? Is it something I'm going to be able to manage? Or how long can I manage it? If I lose my job, am I still going to be able to manage it? How much emergency fund do I need to manage it if I lose my job? So, and it goes back to what you were saying, D, about you don't necessarily have to be out of debt to move abroad, but you have to have a plan in place. Now, if you're moving abroad without a job and you're kind of freelancing or digital nomading or whatever, your income is not consistent, then you may want to knock as much as that debt off as you can, or save the emergency fund up, because you don't have that consistency. So that's kind of the approach we took. I said, okay, this is the amount of debt we have. This is how much we can make off the house. And just to be transparent, it's $600. So we're paying $600 a month out of our pocket for all of our debt in the U.S. So tack a $600 on a month to our whatever we're paying here. Can we manage that? Yes, we can manage that. Okay, then we're good. And we build up a emergency fund. If anything were ever to happen, how long can we manage that? Is there a point we have to pull the trigger on the house maybe to clear all this stuff out? We kind of have those plans in place. So we see what that look like. And then the other thing, I think the biggest thing for us, funding that housing a year in advance is just like a weight.
Okay.
I mean, it's just
Yes.
like, that's one thing I don't have to worry. We don't have to worry about. We know if
We're going to
nothing
talk
else.
about peace. We are going to have a conversation when you are making your decisions about what to pay off. I want to center that piece, and I'm glad that you're talking about that.
Yeah. So that's one thing we do not have to worry about for the next year is rent.
Another thing too, while you're doing that, this is a perfect entryway for things like side hustle income. Every little bit helps if you are devoting that money towards the next year's housing, rental expense. That's the way we look at it. What things can we do to make sure that we can fund this bucket quickly for the next year?
Right.
I don't care if I gotta, sell dinners, write some articles, sing if I have to. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to try and make it so that we can fully fund a rental budget for the next year, knowing that we have this year covered. And that's primarily our focus.
Yeah. And if you put it out and we started doing this. So easy example, if your rent abroad is $1,000 a month, and so that's $12,000 a year, you put that, on a whiteboard and say, this is our target. We need to do whatever we need to do to make this $12,000. And once we got it, we're good for the next year. We don't have to worry about 2025.
Yeah, I'm seeing the comments. I'm trying to get as many of these up because people are offering their solutions.
Yes.
But the one that we should have started with is what Tracy is talking about right now.
Come on.
If you are not together on this, it's going to make it difficult.
So
it is going to make, because the move abroad process takes a level of collaboration. One thing we had to agree on is we cannot create any additional debt.
correct.
Yes.
Which means I have been on Amazon buying a few extra things because I have a no spend part of the beginning of the year to kick things off. And I was like, well, I've been waiting around to get a few of these things, but if we cannot be in agreement, I have agreed to not be a stumbling block in our process. And I think creating more debt when we're trying to pay off things it could be an issue.
It has to be, not only do you have to be on the same page, you have to be willing to be accountable to each other. And that doesn't just mean holding somebody accountable, but being willing to allow someone to hold you accountable. Understand that process is whoever you might be moving abroad with. If you're looking to move abroad with a parent, if you're moving to look abroad with your children, somebody, you as a collaborative effort, you have to say together we are making these choices. And making these choices together are going to help us have a better option. And if we don't focus in on that, I'm lucky publicly say that Dee has never been a financial burden for me. She has never been a reason I have had to work more or do more or back. That's not her thing. She is my financial counselor, and I'm a non-spender. I'm the opposite. I do nothing, so we had to evaluate. But when I'm ready, I want it to look like this, and I want it to fall like that, and it has to have an understanding and a definition and a direction. And I'm lucky that we partner together in that way. And we decided early on, anything above a certain price point would be a conversation. If you came home with a $100 bag, then you bought a $100 bag. If you came home with a $900 computer, hopefully we talked about that first. If you drive a car into the yard, hopefully we really talked about that first. And that's been a point of making sure that what's in front of us, and we both have the accounts on our records, in our phones, on our apps. And we both regularly, have you checked the account today? Have you checked in? And it's not a point of there's some loose stuff out there you need to pay attention. It's, are we staying connected in this conversation, in this process? Even if you are a solo individual making some choices, have someone with whom you can be accountable, especially if you're trying to make some financial changes. And it could be a family member, it could be a good friend, it could be a financial counselor. Pay somebody to be your accountability partner, because somebody has to be there to say, okay, how many times did you go to Burger King this week? Was that really necessary? And you spent $20 each time and it's just you? What are you buying? What are you doing? You know, there ain't even so many fish sandwiches, there ain't even so many burgers you can get before you done lost your mind. And go ahead.
At least holding you to how does the choices you're making impact your goal? There is no judgment in how you spend your money, because baby, what we give to these jobs, and Dr. Kimani has had me talking about these toxic jobs.
Yeah. Reward yourself.
But stay focused on your goal.
Bobby, you had something. Go ahead.
I was going to say this too, in answer or relation to the spouses and being on one accord. I think the issue would be then deeper than money and debt payment. It is, where do you align and see yourself growing together? If the plan is that we are supposed to be debt free, then we need to sit down and talk about what that looks like so that we can both be on the same page. If it is to be moving abroad, we need to sit down and both be on the same page. We're not going to get past or to the issue or situation of debt or money until we align with what the goal is, because I think that's the important piece and element of it, from a perspective of them saying that if you're not on the same page, because we have to be on the same page for debt to be debt free, right? If we have the goal and the vision that this is the reason why we're doing it in the first place. So I think that's important. Second, I think somebody was mentioning a question. I think it might have been Tanya, about her house being paid off. Someone had just mentioned a question. And I'm a real estate agent. So I'm going to say this. If your house is paid off, I'm just being real, at that point, you're actually going to be making a profit from your property if it's paid off. Puts a tenant in there and make sure that you are responsible about things that are going to need to be taken care of, how taxes are going to be paid, all of that. Have a plan with that. But I would not sell that property unless you are needing it, because then at that point you do have a way of making some type of wealth or income and bringing that in as a residual form of income for yourself. So I would say that.
Yeah, Greta's question. Before I mention Greta's question, I want to say thank you to Word Up Psychotherapy and to Diane Heidelberg for your super chats. We appreciate it. Thank you for that part of the how you are supporting our channel, for sure. Thank you. So I have a prepaid Amex Serve card. So that is how she is pre-funding a credit card, because she's identified that consumer debt is one area that once she gets that cleared up, she has a clearer path to moving where she wants to go. Cedric, you said something about what we get advertised, the credit card applications, the home equity loan pre-approvals that come in they are always coming toward you. Another pitfall when it comes to this, looking at my debt, feeling overwhelmed by my debt, is, well, I could get a home equity loan to pay off these things, and now I've got one thing that I'm paying instead of a whole bunch of things. And my personal philosophy is I don't create debt to clear debt. It's not a one-to-one. And so we've talked about consumer debt, but some others that I want to make sure I'm bringing to the top of, you should not leave without making a plan and or paying it off. If you owe the federal government, if you owe the state government, your county government, You got back child support. Y'all, please, please, these are not negotiables. Get into a repayment plan. If you can, double down, pay this stuff off before you leave. Those are the kinds of things you don't want to follow you. Like I've said before, if you owe a federal debt and state debt, I didn't know until I worked in Treasury offset, state debt is federal debt. And so if you have a state debt like child support or something else that you owe the state, they can hold up your passport approval. So you're out there without passport coverage, trying to get back into the States, trying to correct a judgment against you. And so the taxes are another area, I think. Be focused, be diligent. You don't have, IRS will make a payment plan. If you owe taxes, please file your taxes when you're away. If you cannot pay them, get on a payment plan, add that to your monthly budget. But that is not the kind of debt you want to leave undone, or just that happened in America and it's nowhere. It's not going to find you. The other federal debt is student loan debt. And I want to talk to this from a person who I had
Say it again.
I live
I think this.
Tell us in the chat if y'all can still hear us.
Okay, I got you now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not
So
quite sure what's happening. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So if you have student loan debt, and this is student, you were the student, you took out loans for your education, however you use that money. But as a parent, a lot of us have Parent Plus loans. If you owe a student loan that is a federal debt. Now, if you went through a bank, that's a different way. But if you have, and they can lien, they can, what do you call it? It's garnishment. They can garnish your wages. So the money you are making in the US, we talk about creating a path with USD to move about in the world. But if you are getting your wages garnished, the judge decides how much of your income is going to be taken out. Now you've got other things to figure out. So I'm really wanting to make sure, if you've got stuff that's already in collections, I mean, you all can talk about this, but I've had things tip into collections. I go back to who I owe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it was a hospital, if it was a lab, if it was something, I go back to who I owe, that it's already gone to the collection. No problem. I want to talk to a manager or somebody where they have sold that debt for pennies on the dollar. How much can I pay to clear this debt? And then I show that this debt is now paid in full with the collection. I don't pay collection agencies if I can avoid it.
I don't want to pay them extra fees for giving them the same money I was trying to give to whoever it owed to in the first place.
My grandmother used to always say this when things would go into collections for her, and they would call. She was like, "I want to call from the person who I owe the money to."
Yes,
I owe the money to you. Now you bought it. That's your responsibility. That would be her response. But in actuality, yes, because you could actually work out a better deal if you can't pay all of it. You can make some type of payment arrangements with the original creditor or debtor, because they actually are the ones who sold it to the company, the collections.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to do is be abroad. And like you say, if you're bringing U.S. dollars, abroad. Last thing you want to do is be abroad. And I saw some in the comments somewhere about not being able to make court and stuff like that because you're abroad and you're not thinking about it. Last thing you want to do is your check get garnished and you don't know what's going on, right? And then you can't get, you know, and it just throws you all out of whack. So yeah, you definitely want to take care of that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, don't be like the brother here who couldn't get off the ship because he didn't pay his child support. Pay your debts.
Yes,
okay, that's a big deal. I want to step aside for a second and comment to a statement that was made earlier, and it's a general statement, so I'll leave it at that. If we said it a little while ago, you have to be on the same page with a partner or with whoever you're working with in the family to make some changes. If you and your partner are not on the same page, still make plans, still work the plan, because sometimes the example will draw a partner in. Not always, but there is a measure of self-protection that has to come as well, because as much as you are partnered with somebody, you are still an individual citizen. You are still an individual consumer. And you have to protect your side of the consumer, your consumer debt. I had to freeze. We were earlier on in this process. We also had a Facebook page. Someone broke into my oldest email account that I had since 1998, which had the one thing connected to it, my Facebook page. And they broke into my Facebook page and they completely wiped away my page. Because of that, and I don't know how, because I never used it like that, they tapped into my bank. Okay, understand, hackers have skill. They tapped into my bank. So I had to close down that card. And I also froze my credit. That is information that my partner had to know. But I've known people who've had to freeze their credit against their partners. Okay. If the decisions that you and your partner are making are not in unison, work the plan anyway. Because whatever happens in your future, you want to be able to say you put some things in order. So if you have time to correct it together, you can correct it together. If you are able to show yourself an example, you can do that. If God forbid things go less than favorably for the relationship, you have yourself a forward motion.
Yes.
I think it's important to say that. It's just a general statement. It's not counseling, not an expert. Just want you to know, I need you to think the process regardless. It's easy to say, well, we aren't, so we aren't. Or they aren't, so we aren't. Whether they are or not, you must. So Dee is required to keep working on her financial plan, even if I am dead broke and lost my mind. That's the requirement. I am required to work on my financial plan, even if she starts spending all the money in the house, which it will never happen. But it has to be that way. And that way, when we talk together, we also are sharing our individual growth plans towards our collective plan. That's an aside. Walking away. Go ahead.
Also stay involved in videos and places like this. You know, the Facebook groups, YouTube, because realistically, we're sharing this information, but we're sharing this information so that in turn, we're helping someone else out, not just ourselves. I mean, we are doing this thing together. We are all experiencing different things, but we are all doing this together. We are branching out into things that are unknown right now, right? Preparing to moving abroad, trying to get our finances straight. Our parents and grandparents did the best that they could with what they knew how. And now we are doing the same, but we are able to share this on various platforms so that we can continue to grow. And so for those of you who may have a spouse who may not be on the same page, you, like Herman was saying, you stay on the same page. You get involved, you get active, you get the information, you keep working a plan, and then in turn, preferably the other party would be willing to join you at some point. on the journey.
There are 3 points I want to make before we move into the I guess the kind of the last section. What we have learned, and this is from taking Financial Peace. We took Financial Peace University. Adelia has her financial education investment planning class coming up in January. There are a lot of people who can help you walk through this. But if you are preparing to pay off debts, let's say you've gone to annualcreditreport.com. This is not, I am not affiliated with them in any way, but this is where you should go if you want to pull your credit reports for free from the 3 main credit reported bureaus. Once you find that what you owe or what they're saying that you owe, then you contact them directly to confirm the amount. You can then either go back to the original party, like we talked about, and say, hey, I owed you, can I pay you X? Or if they are saying that we've already discharged that debt, is no longer on our records, then you're in a position to negotiate with the collection agency. This is what I've been taught. Never give them access to your bank account. If you negotiate a reduction in what you pay, do not pay it until they put it in writing. Whatever this new amount is, have them put it in writing and state, once this is paid, this amount is paid, the account is paid in full. Don't come back and ask me for the rest of this. Okay. Oh, I was able to negotiate this with my manager. If you pay it within 24 hours, well, can you get me the letter within 24 hours? Then I can pay it back to you in 24 hours. But if the letter don't look right, I don't get it in writing, because that's what I need to be able to show to a judge. They coming back saying, I didn't pay this bill. Here is where they stated, this is the negotiated amount. And once this was paid in full, I no longer owe this debt. So, and then you keep those records like you keep your passport.
Hopefully
you keep it, you scan it, if you have negotiated and that debt is paid, you scan it, you create a folder on in your email to keep up with that notice that said that was paid in full, because they'll come back. That company might be sold to another company. They don't pull those records over. So if you're going to do these things, thank you, Tia, for doing that. But also let's see. So we talked about annualcreditreport.com, but also if we're talking about unpaid debts, and we're talking about, these are debts I know I created. Baby, identity theft is a real thing. You could have unpaid debt that's following you never created, because somebody has gotten your social security number, gotten some PII, personally identifiable information, and has now bought a cell phone, bought a house. People are buying houses with other people's credit. I don't even know how you do that, when I know what it takes and you know what it takes, Bobby, to buy a house. How are you buying something in somebody else's name, or getting credit cards and running up credit card debt? So freezing your credit, or at least going to those credit bureaus and checking it, once a quarter, every other month, while you're gone, you have left your life, but your financial life continues to live on in the US. So I just want to make sure that people know, freezing your credit is, I think it used to be $20. It might be free now.
It's free.
Yeah.
I think it's free, yeah. And that's definitely a good idea to do when you're abroad, because abroad you're not going to need the credit anyway. So there's no reason to not freeze it.
Which answers Greta's question here is
absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, you want to have it, because you can you can thaw it, as they call it, for a temporary certain amount of time. So I'm applying for a position, and in that position they have to do a background check. So I went in and I did a thaw on the specific bureau that they plan to use. It is within a certain amount of days, and then it will automatically go back to frozen status. During that thaw, it is in review by the bureau so that they know it's just a few things coming through and they can ask me about it. So, I mean, keeping it frozen, I mean, literally you go in, you sign it, you freeze it. I went in, I signed in, I unfroze it. It was as simple as that. And it kept the process going really well.
Talk about why credit is the idea of having a strong credit score or credit is different when you move abroad, Cedric. I heard you mentioning.
Yeah, because abroad, it's all about, people don't carry that type of debt abroad. You have to have money to pay for things. That's why generally when they build houses, they stay in generation because they're all working to save money to buy things, to buy another house. So here, when you're going for rentals and things like that, you got to have the cash. They're not checking your credit. There's no credit to check. They may check a reference here or two, here or there, but you're paying 2 or 3 months, a lot of times up front because they want that cash money. So the credit doesn't really matter from it like it does in the States. I know Tracy Collins talked about, getting a place and, I got this, my credit score is this, or she knew somebody talking about their credit score was this amount, and they're like, we don't care nothing about that.
They don't care about it. But another thing about the credit is too, with it, when he was mentioning about it going up and stuff, you're not really using, which is interesting, you're not using your credit cards like you probably were using the cards in the States. If you think about it, I mean, realistically, you may be using it for maybe airline tickets. Your purpose for using those cards are different. Therefore, those particular type of charges or transactions are usually ones that we pay off in full if you're using the credit card. In the States, we may be using the credit card to buy a bag or some gum or a meal or something like that, which 9 times out of 10, you may go ahead and linger on those payments and those charges. You're giving yourself a little bit of a breather, and the credit card companies are looking at that and saying that they're carrying a lower balance. And so therefore your credit is going up too.
Yeah,
so
my credit has went up over 150 points since we've been here, and I haven't done anything.
I definitely want to address that too. We got ready to buy the house. We had paid off debt. Herman hasn't had student loan debt and stuff like that. What we noticed is first, when you're paying off debt, your credit it dips down a little bit and then goes up. But if you're not using credit, then eventually your credit score starts to go down. Mm-hmm. So if you are looking at, I want to be debt free, I mean, if that is your goal before leaving, congratulations. We have been a part of that movement. The advantage of being debt free, I think, centers peace for a lot of us, that, hey, all I'm having to deal with is what is going to keep me alive and keep me going, securing my 4 walls and whatever I want to do. The door is open to the front of me, but the door behind me is closed. That is one strategy. The other is, look, I might have to have buckets of priority. So there's some things I'm going to handle before I leave. I'm going to take care of credit card debt. I'm going to take care of them taxes. I'm going to put my medical debt, because some of it has no interest attached to it. It's a little bit, they're allowing me to pay a little bit at a time. If you can do that, mortgage is considered a debt. And we've talked about, hey, is it worth having that? If you're only going to make a few $100s because it really isn't balancing out, selling it and then investing that money may do you better. Consider what you need to do to get out the door. The last thing I want to say is we have gotten in the US and probably Western countries, we've gotten really comfortable with debt. And we're asking in the move abroad space this conversation should prick some emotion about what is going to either keep you here or disrupt your peace for where you're going. I want peace. I'm saying this in front of an audience.
Yeah.
I want peace. That's gonna mean I got to get rid of everything here. Maybe ask my mom if I can pay some storage fee at her house or whatever, because I don't want to pay no storage unit, but I want to be out and I want peace. Having this conversation with yourself, with a partner, with an accountability partner, I think is necessary. But I want to cover what needs to be paid out the door. So my student loan debt is not going to keep me here.
No.
It's not going to keep me here. I'm on there's the income-driven repayment plan. Yes, it will continue to accrue interest. Yes, it will grow. And, considering how much I've paid off over 6 figures of debt, and to have that one student loan growing just breaks my heart, but I will have a plan for paying it off after I leave. But I'm not going to leave with something that's going to snatch out of our monthly budget every month. I said to Cedric and Bobby before we got on, the move abroad information that's out there wraps a lot of things up in hope.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm asking you to do when you sit down with what you owe and how much money is coming in is, where have you built a hope bubble in your budget? A hope bubble might look like having this job or these kinds of income. I have debt and I'll be able to pay it off because I have this job that's allowed me to move abroad. What we have seen is businesses go under. Yes. We have lived through the 2000s, the 2008s, the 2011s. We have lived through 2 people in federal jobs losing both of their jobs within 2 weeks. So not only are these employers not loyal, these jobs ain't loyal, it's the hope that I'll be able to pay these things because of this. Another conversation where I think we're in the move abroad bubble of hope is, I'm over age 40. If you've had to look for a job recently, you understand, if I lose a job, I come back around and I'm able to match my income is not a reality for well-qualified people that are of age. And
Correct.
So narrowing down what comes snatching my daily budget. Hey, I want to move to a place where if I only have to come up with about $1,000, there are a couple of ways I can, move some things around. I just hope there's a lot of blessing, as we've seen in Cedric and Bobby's experience, and in so many others that are in the chat today that have been able to move abroad. And they're sharing their stories, and they're sharing how beneficial and their quality of life has improved. Debt should not hold you back, but it definitely can be a source of tears and grief if you're not thoughtful about that process. You guys want to say anything as we're closing out?
I definitely want to say this for any people who are starting their journey in life, because I know there's some young people who will be tuning in. Look at the long term. Look at the long game. credit cards. Listen to all of us. Credit cards, housing debt, expenses. These are really critical things that can affect you later on in life. Look at our examples. Listen to what we're saying. Be wise and conscious about decisions that you are making from a financial and life decision. Second, look, we are all gifted and skilled with so many different things. Do not let a job stop you. Be creative. Let's find out what our gifts and talents, utilize those. If we fail, we fail, but let's try them. Let's build something new. Like Dee was saying, these corporate jobs are not loyal. But one thing we can is bet on ourselves and bank on ourselves. And the third thing I want to say is this. Yes, we have our debts and we cry and talk about them, but they will get paid. We will live to see another day. We're still going to enjoy this thing called life, but we're going to move with more intention and not let it scare us and had it under a rug that we have these issues and situations and things that we're dealing with. We're going to move forward, and so will you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just say all that, the hope piece with these jobs, that is a good thing to have, but have a backup plan. Because these jobs at any given time, they can go away. And what is your plan going to be? Is your plan going to be to fold up and go back to the States and try again? Or is it going to be, you know what, I'm going to try to build something while I'm doing this? Use it as a tool. Your job is a tool to reach your goals, but in conjunction with that, your side hustles, you need to try to build something where you're dependent upon yourself, because it's not promised that these jobs are going to be around at the end of the day. So you have to have a plan. You have to plan for that.
Debt reduction / elimination requires a lifestyle change.
Absolutely.
It requires that you sacrifice and invest in a way that is for a better future. And it is never too late. There are resources available that assist with debt reduction and elimination. There are counselors who are available to help with that process. Having someone with whom you can make an accountable decision, getting yourself on a budget, plan. Because if you don't have a plan, failing to plan, everybody is planning to fail. Okay. And it is what it is. It's truth that it is. And when you invest in your future, it's never too late. Dig in and say, what can I take care of? If you pay off the $10 debt, then pay off the $30 debt, then pay off the $90 debt, then pay off the $160 debt, and pay off the $480 debt. Bits and pieces and bits and pieces. And be patient with yourself. Forgive yourself. Be honest with yourself and make the change. And yes, do the hustle. Do the hustle. Get it done. Do not sacrifice yourself in that hustle. Okay. We talk about all the time. We talk about all the time. She mentioned the 6-figure student loans we paid off. We ran ourselves into the ground. And then our government turned around, and I'm going to use real numbers, and slapped a $17,000 income tax on us. Yep. We bought them a car so that we could pay off student debt. Man, hell no. That's not it. That's not the plan. So you got to say, what's the most efficient way to do this that keeps them at bay and keeps me moving forward? Because that's your first objective, is to keep moving forward. Okay. And to do it responsibly. Don't skip your taxes so that you have money. Yeah. But pay your taxes in a way that allows you to not lose everything you have because you're trying to give them some money. Your student loans, your creditors. And the phone will ring. The phone tells you if it's a scam. The phone will tell you if it's a creditor. Answer when you need to. Send them their money. Call the old people. Take care of your business. And keep moving forward. Fail forward. Because at the end of that falling is success. Failure is not in falling down. Failure is in refusing to get back up. Keep on moving. We'll stop with that from our initial guest. Keep on moving. Don't stop.
Yes.
Bobby, thank you all. Y'all literally, we're going on in an hour. Can y'all jump on with us? So thank you for saying yes. Again, thank you for everyone that's joining us. I see some new people. I see a lot of our regulars. We are so grateful to have this space to share a transparent conversation about what we're working through. But the goal is still the same. What I have learned is we don't have time. That's a part of that hope bubble, is that I'll have time to pay off my debts, and then it's what is the floor of this that I could cover, and then have a plan for how to pull the edges tight and keep moving forward. I know if we're figuring it out, we are not special, as Stephanie Perry says. We are not exceptional in having debt or paying off debt or having an income and trying to figure out, how to bring in more funds to cover the things that we need to build a successful future. Let's get out of here.
If you are not already subscribers to Aging Grateful, subscribe to Aging Grateful.
Yes.
Subscribe to their page. You're going to subscribe. All right.
H&D.
And we say this every week because we are a community active page. In this get us? Did he lose us?
Nope, you good.
Okay. In this chat are a lot of content creators. Go to their pages and subscribe to them. Our friend Greta was here today. Greta, get that page jumping, baby girl. We need your page moving. Get in there and subscribe. Subscribe. We are a community. We work together. We are better together. Happy New Year to you all. We'll see you on the other side.